So I'm going to go back to light fixture, and the good thing is I don't have to go back and reload any more lights now that we already have it loaded into our project. So I'm going to load one here on this side. Place him here in this grid. We'll place one on this side as well. And we'll place one directly over where our kitchenette area would be. So now that we have those in place, let's go grab a switch, place our switch, and let's create this circuit. So I can now go to Device, Lighting. I'm going to make sure I have my single pole switch. I'm going to place this one here. That way, as the user comes down this hallway, right when they get to this space, they can turn on the light immediately and they're not walking into a totally dark room. So now that our elements are in place, we can now take a similar approach that we did with the utility room, and let's create a circuit system. And this time we'll start out with our lights again. So I'm going to select all my lights, all three of these lights in our view here. Power. We're going to select panel. I'm going to select our panel here. And now I'm going to modify to get out of that command. I want to add or create a switch relationship with this circuit system. So I can now select all three of those lights again. Click switch, select switch, and I'm going to select my light switch right here. And I know I'm in good shape when I see those hidden lines, and Revit shows me that those lights are all connected to that switch. So I can now tab, click, and let's assign a name to this one. So this will be kitchen lights. I'll click apply here, and I'll get out of that command. And let's do the same thing for our receptacles. So I'm going to select every receptacle, keeping it simple. I don't want to have to do too many selections. So we'll select our GFCI, home run one, and the rest of our standards. Power. We're going to select panel and let them know that those are going to be powered by that panel. And I can now add my name. So this will be kitchen outlets. Perfect. So far, so good. So let's take a similar approach with calculations and making sure we have the nice distribution of outlets. Let's take that and apply that to maybe our area here in this first conference room. Now, let's do this. We're going to do the same calculation we did for the kitchen, but we're going to use a little bit of a different number. So I'm going to open up my calculator here, and we'll clear this out. So we're going to use our same 120 volts. But we're going to, instead of a 20 amp system that we had in the kitchen, we're going to use it on a 15 amp system. So we'll take that times 15. And now we can divide that by the 180. And that's going to give us an even 10. So now I know that the maximum number of receptacles I can have in this room are going to be about 10. And, that's roughly about two and a quarter per wall. So you really don't get a quarter of a receptacle. But I'm going to stick with the rule of thumb. I know that by making that calculation, if I work with this rule of thumb that I'm getting ready to use, I will not be exceeding that 10. So we're going to do 2 on each wall, except with an exception of this wall, and they're going to be spaced out, roughly about 5 feet. So let's grab those receptacles. So I'm going to go there, electrical fixtures, and we're going to stay with our same ones. We really don't need these to be protected or GFCI protected. So we're going to use our real basic ones here. So I'm going to start on this wall. We're going to put one there, and we're simply going to place 2 on each wall, maintaining roughly a distance of about 5 feet. Now I know this is about 2 feet, so we'll go 2, 4, 6, and then it's close to about 5 feet difference. We'll do the same thing on this side here. Perfect. So now that we have those in place, let's grab our lighting. Let's drop some lighting into this area. So we'll go light fixture. We're going to stick with our 2x2 troffer style lights here. And I'm going to place one right over here near this outlet. And on this side, try to get a nice distribution of lighting here. And we'll go with 4 lights per office here, or per conference room. So I'm going to set those. And we're not totally done yet. Remember, we've got to get our switch. So now let's set up our system first, and then we'll set up our switch relationship. So I'm going to select all my lights in that particular room. Power. I'm going to select a panel like we've been doing. And I can now modify to get out of that. But I'm going to select all these lights again. We'll go to switch to create that switch relationship. Actually, we shouldn't do that yet because we actually have to bring in a switch. So we'll go to device, drop down, and we'll go to lighting. Can't forget that I have to switch in place in order to have that relationship established. So I'm going to set this one here. That way anyone who walks in this room can turn on the light immediately, and they're not walking into a totally dark room just to get to the outlet. So now we can go ahead and set that relationship. So we'll select all our lights. We'll go to switch systems. I'm going to select switch. I'm going to click that. Let's see if that actually worked here. Perfect. So I can hover over my switch, hit tab once just to double check and make sure, and I can see that that light switch controls all those. So far so good. We'll go ahead and name this one. So I'm going to tab that, and we'll call this one conference room A lights. And we'll do the same thing for our receptacles here. So I'm going to select all those as well. So you can really get a feel for the rhythm and how this works. So once you really get used to it, it's almost intuitive, and you can really fly through a project and get a real basic layout done and kind of go from there and evolve your project. So once I have those, we'll power. We'll select our panel here, and we'll call this one conference room A outlets. And I'll click apply here as well. So now that we have this room finished out, we're going to take our attention and finish out our common area here. And then we'll also see what we can do with some scheduling to create a really nice, simple panel schedule that's going to help us with maybe our install, but it's also going to help us with what's going to go inside of our panel and maybe even maintenance and property management for our office space, and approaches to laying out the circuit system. One for our utility room, which is really freehand approach, just getting things in there and establishing a circuit. But we were also able to take a more scientific approach to laying out the circuit in our kitchen as well as our larger conference area. So up to this point, most of the work we've done has been interior. So we're not just limited to what we can do on the inside, we can create a circuit for anything that's going on the outside of our building. So let's see how we can get that done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to my floor plan here. And in this view, just like we did with our ceiling plan, we need to make some adjustments to our visibility graphics. So as we're placing site elements or exterior lighting in this view, I want to be able to see it. So I'm going to jump to my visibility. And again, we're going to select similar things that we did with our other processes. So I definitely want to see my electrical equipment, electrical fixtures, lighting devices, lighting fixtures. Those 4 elements should suffice. So what I'll do here is I'll click apply and OK. And now we can go grab some site elements like some exterior lighting to the exterior of our building. So I'm simply going to go component, and we'll go to load family. And now I can go to lighting, architectural, external, and now we can grab a few lights to light up the exterior of our building. So we'll go with this antique street light, and we'll open that up, and now I can place this throughout the exterior of my building. So with my design, it's going to call for lights here near the entrance. So my entrance is illuminated a little bit. And a couple more down this side of the building. We also want some nice lights here along maybe the front of the building, so we get a really nice look from the street. So once I have those in place, we just needed to make a couple of decisions on how we want this circuit to behave. Now we can maybe assign a light switch and create a switch relationship where any of the occupants who are leaving this building simply hit a switch and the exterior lights turn on. But that could be kind of inefficient and could be kind of inconsistent. So we could take a more green approach and maybe apply a timer to this exterior lighting. So let's see how we can get that done. So the first thing we need to do is we'll establish a power circuit relationship within these lights. So I'm simply going to select all the lights that we just placed on the exterior of our building. And I'm going to click my power button. And we're going to select our panel that we've been working on. So once I have that set, I can now assign a name to this circuit. So this one will be exterior lighting. So I'll click apply there once my name is attached to that circuit. So now what we need to do is choose a switch that can work as a timer. and then create a switch relationship within this circuit. So I'm going to go to my systems here, and I'm going to go to device, and we're going to go for lighting. And I can go to my drop down, and you'll see several options we have. Throughout most of our project, we've been working with the single pole light switch, but we're going to take a more green approach, and we're going to apply a timer to this. This will allow us, one, to make sure we have some consistency on when the lighting is turned on and off, but it also help with possibly even some of the costs associated with electrical bills. So I'm going to set this timer here in the back of the utility room. I'm going to want this one to be hidden just a little bit. So we can place that timer on this wall here. And when I do that, you'll notice how this switch is annotated. It's a little bit different than the ones we've placed. Our single pole switches were simply an S with a single line going through, letting us know that, hey, there's a switch here. Well, with this one, since it's an actual timer, there's a T right next to that same switch symbol. So we're able to look at this plan, and we know the different types of switches associated with our circuit design. So now let's create a really quick switch circuit relationship. So I'm going to select all my lights again. Using my control button, I'm going to hold that down so I can select several. And now I must select my switch button. And then we'll go select switch. And now we're going to select my timer. And when I do that, Revit does a really nice job about letting me know that this timer controls the lighting for all these elements by using hidden lines. Now, when we set this, I could see I didn't select one of these lights, but that's not a problem at all. I can simply go back, and we can edit our switch system. And we're going to add to the system this light that we forgot. And now I can finish editing. And now when I go to my switch, hit tab, you can see all my lights are now included within that circuit system. So we've placed our lights, we've placed our switch, and we established the relationships that we needed to establish, and we also gave it a name that we can later on use to place inside of our panel. Take a similar approach and a green approach to what we can do on the inside of our office here. So up to this point, we've been using a lot of the 2x2 troffer lights or the 2x2 parabolic lights. Let's use a different lighting, a different switch, and let's finish out this office suite. So I'm going to go back to lighting fixtures again. And for this one, I'm going to, instead of using the parabolic, we're going to use some recessed can lights. They'll be used to illuminate our lobby area as well as the main hallway during times when this space is unoccupied, so we don't have a totally dark space. That way, if anyone does come in after hours, it's lit and it looks somewhat occupied from the street. So I'm going to grab my can lights, and we're going to jump to sealant plan level 1. And we're going to start placing these guys strategically throughout this common area space. So I'm going to go to my drop down, and I'm going to look for a recessed can light. And if I don't see it here, I can simply just go load family, and we can get one from a family folder. So like we did with our other lighting, I'm simply going to go to lighting, architectural. This will be internal lights this time. And we're going to go with some recessed can lights. And those will create a nice dimming effect for our common areas for this unoccupied time in our space. So I'm going to lay out 2 rows here for our area here. Once I have 6 lights in my lobby, I can then take the rest of those lights and bring them on down throughout this hallway. Perfect. So now that we have those in place, let's go ahead and grab ourselves another timer switch, and we'll place that in the back as well, and we'll make sure we note that this switch is specific to what's going on in our common area. So again, I will go to device, lighting, and we have our timers already loaded up for us since that's the last one we used. And we'll place this one a small distance away from the one we had in place. And I'm going to leave a little note here, just letting maybe the next user for this phase of the project know that this one is associated with common area. And I'll click apply to make sure that sticks there. So now that we have everything annotated, everything's in place, let's establish a circuit relationship. So I'm going to select all those lights. And we could do so much quicker if I select, right-click, and we're going to select all instances within this entire project, because we only have one set of can lights. And now I can hit my power button, which will automatically establish that circuit. But now we're going to select panel, and we're going to bring that panel in to power that circuit. And as with our other circuits, you can see it's nicely annotated and we know exactly what's where. And if you wanted to, we could hit our wire button and create a nice wiring diagram. But at this point, we have so much going on within this design that could be a bit overwhelming and it can make this plan really hard to read. So once we have this complete, we can now make sure we assign a name to this system like we've been doing with the other ones. So again, I'm going to tab, click, and we'll assign a name. We'll call this one Common Area Intermittent. Just so I know that, one, it lights up the common areas, and two, it's intermittent. It's not a continuous lighting system. It's timed. So I'll click Apply at that point, and we've now laid out our entire suite. So if you've noticed, as we were working and after we established a relationship within each circuit, we made sure that we named the circuit something obvious and associated with the circuit number that it's on. And I'll show you exactly why. So at this point, not only do we have a plan that we can look at, a plan that we can hand off to someone who's installing either my fixtures or my receptacles or even the circuits, but we also have a schedule we can use to create something we can actually put in our panel. So anyone who maybe needs to access the panel, they know exactly what circuit does what. But it's also a nice piece of information to have for the building owner or the building owner's occupants. So let's jump to scheduling and see how we can make this work for us. So again, I'm going to scroll down to my view here. And we're going to go to Schedules, and we're going to right-click on Schedule. And I'm going to create a new schedule here. And you can see that this filter list is electrical, which is exactly what we want. This is based off of our project template here. So I can now come down and we're going to look for circuits. So we'll go to electrical circuits. Once I have that, I'll click OK. And now I can bring over any available fields onto my schedule fields. So we're mostly concerned with the circuit number. I want that to be it. The first column is going to be my circuit number on my switchboard. So we'll bring that over. But then you remember when we were applying names to our circuits, we did so in a certain area that we can actually use to filter out which is which. So I'm going to scroll down and we have our scheduled circuit notes. And that's where we applied the names and the descriptions of each circuit. So I'm going to add that over as well. So I like the order we have here. So first column we have circuit number. And just to the right of that will be the circuit notes or the label of each circuit. So once I have that in place, I can click OK. And I'm going to X out of my property here in my properties window. And you can see all the circuits we have in place now. So, for instance, circuit number 1 is tied directly to our utility room lights. Circuit number 2 is to the utility room outlets, and so on and so forth. So now we have something we can give the building owner. He can have on file for his building file, but we also have something we can actually place inside the door of that panel. So in case of emergency or if anyone needs to reference it, it's right there. They know exactly what each element does within that circuit.